I'm your host, Reena Friedman Watts, and this is the Better Call Daddy Show.
Hey, this is Big Daddy, Wayne Friedman.
That's my grandpa. Grandpa, you ready for more daddy drama?
My dad is my number one hero and number one fan.
And I'm a pretty cool dude.
All right, season 4, baby, here we go.
More stories you're not going to believe.
And maybe you will after you listen.
5 stars.
5.5 stars, 2 thumbs up.
You are a pretty cool dude.
I love you, Mommy.
Don't stand on the table and damn the public. You'll get some words of wisdom to live by.
Here we go again. Better call Daddy.
You know what your problem is? You like me.
Yeah, I do. Each week, I interview a guest, share the stories with my dad, and then he weighs in at the end of every episode with his wisdom and wit.
Hey, Grandpa.
Everyone from influential players to inspirational fathers, and of course, controversial people.
Grandpa, my mommy's calling.
Creating that legacy one call at a time. And welcome to the Better Call Daddy Show.
Stay tuned.
Where's the music?
Better call Daddy cause he knows you best. Better call Daddy cause he's bringing the test. He sees possibilities. Such possibilities. Better call Daddy, he'll be by your side. Better call Daddy, you're the apple of his eye. He sees all that you can be. All that you can be.
Today, we're going to get Mazi's story, his own personal transformation fueled by his unwavering commitment to his son and his mission to create a meaningful change.
Hi, my name is Mazi Keyghobadi, co-founder of Hope for Luca. I hope you guys enjoyed.
I am excited to learn more about Mazi today. I want to know, who are you? Have you explored that? Because you spend a lot of time dedicating your life to your son and your nonprofit that you've started and the team of scientists that you've rounded up. Let's go back to in your dreams and your upbringing.
Sure. I, along with my twin brother and my mother, we migrated from my country, from Iran. Went to high school here, went to college. Initially, I wanted to become a doctor, to be honest with you. That was my childhood dream. Because my mom was a nurse, my dad was a nutritionist, but a researcher. He did, research in rural areas of my country. And for that, I was always involved in that environment, basically. So that was one of the things, looking up to them, wanted to become a doctor, became a pharmacy technician back in 2003, I think. I was 19 years old. Then started working in, I think the first one was Texas Children's, 9th floor, the acute care. We were making chemos and stuff for kids. I think it was Texas Children's, yeah. And then went to Memorial Hermann Southwest. I was there for 4 years. Yeah. And
That's a long time.
it is a long time.
Wow.
And at that point, I decided that actually I don't want to become a doctor because I found, and it wasn't because of a judgment toward the hospital itself, the hospital environment. It was mostly because I found out that I'm the type of a person that would like to create or rather than to save, because I feel like, people that are more hospital oriented are the ones that, and it has nothing with level of compassion. It's not like if you have compassion, you can be in the hospital or you have the patience. It's more of a personal upbringing or the personal, if you're extrovert or introvert type of deal. And I felt like that just didn't resonate with me. It was bringing me down. I was becoming depressed almost. And at that point, I just let it go, ventured into the business world, that was a false dream, to be honest with you, because I tried to make it and, going to this idea of, retiring early and doing this and that. But then I found out many years later, fast forward a little bit, because, there were ups and downs. I had, a couple of failures, sure. Actually, I'm a master failure when it comes to that because, I jumped into it too fast and too young. I was only 23. And I had no backup. We were just, like I said, our family is not rich or any of that stuff. We're simple. We come from a simple background. And yeah, so that was, I found out basically getting closer to the time that my son was born. This is not for me. And that realization kicked in after his diagnosis. It didn't come right away. It came a little bit after, where I realized this is where I want to be, in a nonprofit. Based on my background of my parents, like I said, they're very genuine, nice people. And I felt like, to use an analogy, I feel like I'm the sheep in the pack of wolf in the business world, and I didn't belong there, and I didn't wanted to become the wolf. I really didn't. It just didn't resonate with me, and especially my son was born, especially after his diagnosis, it just put the final stamp on it that, in order for me to be happy, I have to be in the right path, what resonates with me the most. And in the nonprofit, I feel like that's where I want to be. That I feel comfortable. I feel outspoken. I feel like the values that I have or I can contribute when it comes to personal growth and, consciousness and stuff like that, that's something or somewhere where I can actually thrive and contribute, not in a personal growth, give something, right? In order, before you leave the world, you give you positive contribution, not just trash this earth, beautiful earth, as we have been doing for 100 years, but, try to do it the other way, because that's what I truly feel, I don't mind recycling. I don't mind, doing the right thing when everybody doesn't do it. And I wasn't always like that. I was kind of influenced by the crowd most of the time. But now I've learned that in order to really not have any regrets, I would say, I do have to be myself. I do have to speak for what I believe in, even if what I speak of, it's not being understood or being ignored by the masses, just because, that's just the state of society right now, to be honest with you, with the technology and everything else. I feel like values or human being values are being ignored.
Tell me more about that.
I feel like, my purpose of being is just to demonstrate what I stand for and let the people, if they get influenced by it, great. If they don't, that's okay. I've done what was asked from within. And how do I know the asking from the within? That all came, again, after being introduced to Eckhart Tolle. The book is Power of Now. One of the very few, along with Alan Watts and, Wayne Dyer. So, those are the people that I look up to. Those are the people that I feel most related. Eckhart is a bit more comprehensive for me. They all say the same thing. It's no different, but everybody says it in a different way. So whoever that resonates, for instance, with Eckhart, of course, you listen to him, but it doesn't make him any better than Alan Watts or Wayne Dyer and, all that good stuff. So prior to that step, prior to being introduced to Eckhart Tolle, I would say I was a different person. When I say different, meaning that best way to put it is that you have sunglasses on and you have 10 of them, let's say. So how much of a reality can you see when you have 10 sunglasses? Not much.
That many?
I'm just saying I have, yeah, probably. That, not all of them come because you choose not to. Some of them come because of, there are two stages of developments in any child. The child doesn't have any control over, meaning that I didn't choose to be in the situations when I was 5 years old, right? I was following the lead of whoever that was raising me. Is an example. I'm not saying something happened at 5, but I'm sure a lot of people go through a lot of traumas they don't even know about, either voluntarily or involuntarily by the parents. It's like a computer program that you're loading a computer, Microsoft or, system, and there's a virus or a couple of files fail, and then you're going to deal with that for the rest of the time, unless if you wipe that program off and reinstall it again. And I feel like when you get to the midlife crisis at, can happen at 30s, 40s. Trust me, I was there too. I'm still coming in that process, but I understand. But that's to me, that's as if it felt as if universe gave you a second chance. But this time it asks you, okay, this time you can choose. I will give you a reset button called midlife crisis, right? I'll press it for you, not an option. But once I press it for you, you have this, window of opportunity to change some of the stuff that was given to you without your control in your subconscious mind. And I felt very much that, where it was a series of luck. The right word is not luck. It more feels like by design, to be honest with you. And I don't want to get into how, what, why by design, a subject, but it felt like everything felt into the right place. The way it was set for me was by my son getting sick, and then business failure one after another prior to that, So there's a lot of things that was leading, to this entity realizing, I like to put it that way, that that's not who I am. I'd like to change something. And
Wow.
yeah. And that's where Eckhart Tolle came in, because when you get to that point, when you have so much pain inside or so much confusion or a combination of both, I think that was my case, you start to look for a solution. It's either that or it can get really ugly, Yeah. So
Yeah.
a lot of people choose the latter, or a lot of people just do nothing, and again, that's not a judgment, because who am I to say anything about anyone without knowing what they've been through and how the journey is unfolding? So I try not to, stay away. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, at that time, I would say the awakening process, and awakening is just as simple as taking off all the sunglasses.
I wanted to ask you about taking off the sunglasses.
That's all it is, and the way it's done is by, so when they say meditation, people just don't, meditation is not something that like the workout of your muscles that you do. It's a different concept, and it's simple as breathing. And when I say breathing, you pay attention. Your brain is not paying attention to the body and thinking at the same time. It can handle multiple thinking, meaning you can think about 10 different things in an hour. But if you actually put your focus on your breath, and there are different ways to do it. For instance, you can feel the temperature of the air going to your body or to your nose, or try to feel it, right? That's forcing your brain to connect to the nose nerves and activate certain things. Same thing with, try to feel your belly and count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 when you inhale, and then hold it for 3 seconds, and then count to 8 when you exhale, and you do it gradually. That forces your brain to pay full attention to the body, right? Because if you lose focus of that, then you're not able to actually breathe properly. You're not able to count to 7, right? And they've proven it scientifically that your brain, once that element happens, the focus goes to the body. And that's called meditation. That's it. It's not that people try to, see something, or, it's none of that. And when you do that, all of a sudden, if there are devices now, I had a friend of mine actually that put that device on my head just to measure, brain activities. I don't remember what it is. And it's very simple. This stuff is coming out just like, you have these drones that 10, 15 years ago you couldn't get. Now you can go anywhere, you can buy for cheap, So these devices are also, I think down the road, they're going to be more out there where you can put it in your head and just look at the brain activity. And once you meditate, it just becomes very flat and smooth, the activity of the brain. And it also allows you to see clearly. I think that's the key to taking off those glasses, because that allows you to see your own mistakes, to even see that you're thinking all the time. I think it was Eckhart Tolle or one of the other, spiritual leaders that was saying, it's like being in a river. It's like being in a river, and your thoughts are the water. They're constantly running through you. The only way you can get rid of the thoughts is to step out of the river, not to try to jump up, because you come back down again in 2 seconds. Not to try to, put the one leg up and the other one is still in the water, or stand on your hand so your legs will get dry. Now your hands are wet. The only way is to just get out of the water. And that's a decision. It's something that has to come to you. It has to be realized. And how do you realize it? Pain. Just how it is. I've seen it, experienced it, and I feel like that's what it is. And for that reason, it's it's been like that with me. It was pain and confusion that was coming for a long time. There were things that happened also in my childhood, my country also, because of, certain limitations and stuff like that. Made it difficult for me as a teenager to adapt to society here, even.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Can you share any of that?
Sure. It's just simply the way certain ideologies are in place in the society in my country, right? If you're coming from the Middle East, it's just the way it is where, expression, freedom of expression, all that stuff is not there. And transitioning from that to the United States where you have, you can do whatever you want, right? But then also there is certain rules here so that you have to adapt to those. That transition, I feel like we also came at a time that we were going from one generation to the next generation in the US,
Definitely.
where, the social media was coming slowly and it was a different times in the 90s in the US. So I'm pretty sure if I came, for instance, in the 90s, I would have felt more, the transition would have been smoother. But we came at a time that there was also transition in the society here.
Wow.
So, yeah, that was something that, it was a slow process. I'm not saying it was anything traumatic. It was just something that was a not an easy way, more of a confusion, on a personal growth level. And I think the confusion also mostly came that I got sucked into wanting to make it so bad and wanting to become, because, there's opportunities and yeah, sure, it's very appealing. But I think at that point, my mistake was that it's no judgment on the opportunity. There's no judgment on anyone that goes after the opportunity. There was a mistake on my side of going after opportunities while I'm not built for opportunities. I'm built for something else.
That's a deep realization.
Yes. And like I said, that didn't come until 5 years ago. Then the confusion was there because I was lost. I didn't know who I was really. Everything I was doing was a scratch on the surface.
How do you find out who you are?
Again, pain. And I really think the only thing that can snap you out of it, I feel like, I've said it in my Facebook post, if you look at it around back in 2021, it is a slap in the face. It literally feels like that, universe just comes in and says, wake up.
Wow.
Yeah. And then it stops you slowly. And if not, they'll give you a big one. I still have the hands,
Yeah.
it's still there. So that's what
You felt that second one,
yeah.
huh?
Yeah. The second one went through my face, actually. Yeah. So. But that's the only thing that I can tell you. I don't think, of course they can, for different people, there's different ways. Some people have, maybe mine was a very sudden shift and crumbling of ego and going into, and that, was a big part of it, to be honest with you, because you're so confused inside that you don't know who you are and nothing resonates with you at that point. Nothing makes you happy. The stuff that used to make you happy, a little success here and there, and people telling you if you're good or bad makes you upset or happy. At that point, it just felt like numb. Like,
when
what
did
is
you
this?
decide that other people telling you that you're great isn't enough and that you need to feel like you're great?
Sure. So after going through the isolation, I didn't feel that I am the need to be great. It was the opposite, actually. I feel like I'm tired of that.
Wow.
I don't want to, I want to just be,
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, just be here and be happy, right? Because I found out greatness doesn't bring happiness. It just doesn't.
Or fulfillment.
Yeah, it doesn't, because there's always somebody else and someone else. And that's why we have children. If anybody is under the illusion that they're the best or the whatever, guess what? That children's purpose is to be better than you. That's why the evolution works that way, right? You're here to reproduce as our species, for instance, right? And what's the point of reproduction? Not to entertain us, to pass on the knowledge to them so they can do something better with it, right? But at some points, yeah, sure, you go backwards instead of going forwards. But, nature and evolution will fix itself. No need to, that's how I see it. No need to touch anything there. It'll do what it needs to do. And I feel like for me, I'm just an observer. I just sit back and observe. I don't want to take part in it because I feel like at this stage, it is in a place where it is the downside of, nature taking its course. When you go through that awakening process, that's also something that you understand, because it is just an inner calling, you know. And I've done a couple of psychedelics actually experiences.
Cool.
Yeah. Very.
What got you to do that?
That was also about 2-3 years ago, actually. That was right around the time that I wanted to go into being full-time, focusing on the research. And I felt like physically I was lacking something. You know, I have ADHD, so I take medication for that. But that medication, and it has side effects, it changes your personality in a sense. And I felt like that took a big toll on me, and I needed some sort of a physical intervention rather than, because the spiritual intervention already was there through Eckhart Tolle. And I felt ready, because if you tried psychedelics and you are not able to turn off your head, or you have continuous thoughts or unresolved issues or traumas, it can be quite not effective, I would say. I'm trying to look for the right word.
Interesting.
Yeah. But at that point for me, so I recommend whoever that wants to do the psychedelics, you know, don't just jump into it, you know, do your research. But prior to that, the biggest thing you need to do is meditate. It wasn't something that I was seeking. It was introduced to me, and I said, yes. I mean, I read about it. I looked at a couple of videos, and I was like, wow, this is, because there's a lot of scientific data behind it, how it changes your brain. I've been magic mushrooms.
Right.
Yeah. Golden Teacher is probably the best, one of the best, for me at least, it was strains of magic mushroom, and it's just actual nature given. There's a gentleman called Paul Stalemate, I think. I hope I say
Is it
his...
Paul Steinman?
Yes.
Yeah, my husband.
Okay, my
That's about him.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he's a big mushroom advocate.
Yeah.
He's like almost the father of you know, magic mushrooms and psychedelics. I watched him, became a big fan of him, and his stories were incredible. And I remember there was a story that he was saying about how initially when he was young, he used to stutter, and then he took the magic mushroom, but he took by accident the first time, I think, that he took it. He took a very high dose.
Heroic. Yeah.
He didn't know anything about it, you know.
Whoa.
So yeah, and then at that time he actually. You know, there was a storm. He got caught in the storm. He was in the woods, and he goes under a tree, and he gets bored after a while. And then he starts telling himself that I don't want to stutter. I don't want to stutter. I don't want to stutter. He was, you know, repeating it in his mind. After the storm was over, the next day, it's gone. He doesn't stutter anymore. Well, that's what I felt like. I felt like there is traumas or unresolved, you know, issues in my head that I needed to solve, and this is something that can help. That was the last piece of the puzzle, like a little glitch in the brain, or, you know, some knot in the brain that just very persistent, and like a tumor that doesn't want to leave, but out of bad experiences in the past, either subconscious or something.
Interesting.
Yeah, the word magic is the best way to describe it. And I learned afterwards how it does it. It basically, it goes to the side of your brain, because magic mushroom comes from mycelium, which is the network of basically nerves. These are mushroom, you know, little networks under the ground that act like the human body's nervous system. And they exchange nutrition between the plants and trees. They even communicate. They help the trees and plants communicate with each other. And the trees and plants in return provide them extra nutrition for them to survive. And then also they send nutrition to other plants. There's a massive amount of research done on mushroom, you know, fungi. And magic mushroom miraculously does, because it has psilocybin, it does almost the same. It goes to your brain and it scans your brain as if it's your nervous system. Just like your muscle, when you go through a trauma, when you pick up something really heavy one day, your muscle, your body says, wait, we got to make more muscle, right? That's how you do workout, right? You put pressure on it so it can make more. The body says, what is this? We can't handle this for survival. We need to make more muscle. So it starts making more muscle for you the next day, right? Your brain works the same way, but it's unfortunate because the brain has not been able to master that as your body has been. Because when you don't need muscle, your body gets rid of your muscle. It burns it for food, as food. If you sit down for 4 hours a day, you lose a certain muscle tone on your bottoms, right? They've done studies because they say, well, we don't need that much muscle there, so we're going to put the energy into somewhere else in the body, right? But the brain, you go through trauma, and the brain says, well, we got to deal with this trauma. It jumps in there and starts, building all these neurological connections to deal with the trauma. But then when the trauma is over, instead of getting rid of the unwanted neurological connections, it is still there, and it runs and runs as if that event is continuously happening. And that's how people become depressed. That's how people become, traumatized, especially if it happens early in the childhood, because the rate of neurological development is insane compared to an adult. That's why kids, they learn a lot faster. So your body makes continuously neurological connections for anything you learn. Just the rate of making it slows down as you become to adulthood. A certain part of your brain,
Sorry.
no, that's okay. Certain part of your brain just stop developing altogether. Because it's already done the core part of your brain just stops developing. So I feel like the part of the brain, this magic mushroom, like I said, there's a lot of studies that are done on it. It's not my statements. It's something that these are, information that are out there. But I felt it myself because there was, in my first experience, I felt for the first time in my life, complete and absolute silence in the head.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, I don't think you can experience that in a normal state. Unless if, there are geniuses, there are people that are, when I say geniuses, meaning that the brain is structured in a way that somehow it's just unified. And I think those people are the ones that can see things clearly. They can, but those are very rare. Or maybe even those people took magic mushrooms, you never know. But it is quite astonishing because based on the studies and based on what I experienced, it felt like it literally went to the areas of my brain where there is overactivity and the neurological connections that were built in the head that, just like muscle, they were supposed to be biologic. You're supposed to get rid of them, or brain's supposed to get rid of them, but the brain never does. That's why you have traumas. So it goes there, somehow cuts the electricity to these areas, and sends the electricity to the left side of your brain, which is most of the time quiet. And that's your creativity and a host of other things, And that's why people become very dull. And especially when the age comes and problem comes, because you're creating more of those hurricanes, I would say, of, neurological connections in your head. Trauma of kids, home birth, the first kid, second kid, and issues with the kids, all those things the brain is trying to deal with, right? But what happens when you pass those traumas? For some reason, they still haunt you. You might not even know it. It's not like, the story is repeating. The structure of wariness and trying to do something for it is repeating, right? So there's a sense of unease all of a sudden that you have that you didn't have in your 20s and 30s because you didn't have that many problems, right? So how do you turn it off? How do you, have some sort of a physical intervention? Well, this to me was the answer. It went in there and cut off the electricity to all these hurricanes or little excessive neurons in my head. That's what it felt like. And it's been permanent.
Wow.
Yeah. But it doesn't guarantee that those hurricanes are not created again. It does guarantee that now you have this calm and collected brain. Now you're able to use that brain and avoid those hurricanes, make right decisions, make better decisions, become, healthier when it comes to lifestyle, eat better and stuff like that. Those realizations, if you had it before, is just intensified by thousands, especially if you meditate prior to doing this and also meditate afterwards, right? You're keeping the newly reformed brain, as I can call it, and it's your duty now to not mess it up. And I did mess it up a couple of things because, my journey is very intense. So I ended up I decided at some point I need to take this every 2 months because that's what they recommend. It's not something that you can take as a joy or a fun drug or anything like that. People always mistake that. Even the ones that took it, they don't even know what they took. They don't even know their effect, up to this point. But once you know it and you put it into a therapeutic use and you follow certain steps, you can do even microdosing. people do microdosing. I know mothers in California do it, to cope with the postpartum stress and a host of other things, a mother goes through. I've witnessed my ex-wife with Duchenne, and I know how difficult that is. And until you don't have a child, you don't know. But when you have a child, you understand how much of a toll it really it takes out of the mother, right? So when I read the article, I was like, wow, this is really good. This is really, incredible. I think good job to you guys for actually venturing into this, because when you microdose it, it's not as much of a shock. But if you go with the actual doses and you're not prepared for it, you might unlock certain things that you don't want to, or it might make you feel negative, or, I never had that, to be honest with you. My first experience was just out of this world. Like I said, the peace it's undescribable. I cannot indescribable. Sorry.
Did you do it alone?
No, the first one was with a guide. And
that's good.
Yeah, you have to have a guide, at least the first time, 2 times. But then after the first 2 times for me, I learned how to do it myself. So now, if I try, there's a thing, and these terms they seem very out of this place, but they say if you abuse the mushroom punishes you. And it happened one time to me, because I took one, I take it out every 2 months, because you have to give your body the time for the mushroom to process itself and the body to process it and get it out. And then there's an integration period where after your trip doesn't end in that 8-hour that you take it. It can go sometimes for weeks or months even, depending on the person. For me, I could sense it 2-3 weeks after. How do you sense it?
You got the goods.
No, but it wasn't like, sensing of, feeling something's changing in your head. It was a clarity that continuously was getting enhanced, after it. And continuously, I was feeling better. Continuously, all of a sudden, this, puzzle that was all scattered on the floor, they just connected it. I was just explaining to Kelby about the movie called Limitless. If you watch that, I feel like, whoever that made it took magic mushrooms, or LSD or something. But, LSD is something that I wouldn't recommend, because I like natural stuff, anything when it comes to, and magic mushrooms are the most natural gift Mother Nature offers, I know people that are actually a lot of research. They've done research on OCD, obsessive compulsive. There's a guy, really severe case. He was suicidal. There's a video of him online. I think it was with UCLA or Harvard. I'm not sure which one. I think it was UCLA. It was in California. They put him into a study. They call it dark room, meaning that they would deprive you of all the sensory input. And also I recommend that, instead of taking it first time with eyes open. But the first time for me was eyes open, because I was very excited. But I did the dark room, and that was fantastic. It was just a different experience. But the dark room, they did it for that guy with OCD, and he basically, he had always worries. He was describing it in the video that I always had worries. I always felt like everything is going to end. Something bad happened to my, child. He had a child and a wife. And he says in this experience, and they showed a video of him in the bed, sleeping with the headphones and, blindfold on. And there were all, of course, 2 researchers sitting the whole entire time. And then he went through the experience. He was crying. There's, a lot of emotions being released. Your body just does its natural thing that you block it to do on a regular basis, because we have this thing called ego, or these blockages, or the programming of the mind that doesn't allow you to express your emotions, or just let your body to just release them. We hold it. It's like, excuse my language, it's like you want to go to the restroom, but you just hold it for 10 years. But imagine if, spiritually, you're holding it for 10 years. So
that's awful.
It destroys you from inside out, right? So,
yeah.
And that's what it feels like. This thing is like a laxative, for your soul. And I said, okay, no problem. Just go ahead and, dump everything down. So
we're all friends here.
Exactly, right? But sorry, I forgot the
point.
Yes. I was going somewhere with the subject, but that example wasn't a good one. It just threw me off track.
I want to talk about how, this magic experience has now transformed you as a dad and also has played into the work that you're doing with the nonprofit.
Oh, everything almost. And I say everything, meaning everything in the sense of having a lot of negative or past trauma removed out of me through these experiences. I am more in control of myself, my body, my brain, thoughts in every sense, if you ask me. I am more outspoken, as you can see, and less afraid to be myself. And I think, again, everything starts from, I understand for myself, everything starts from me, right? If I come and try to fix it outside, best of luck, because I'll be fixing outside with a broken machine. But I feel like that broken machine is now fixed to a certain extent. And now I'm able to fix the outside, meaning my son, and have positive ripple effect on others by doing so with a clear machine, with a clean machine, a fixed machine, And I highly recommend it. And it's one of the things that I would like to introduce to the muscular dystrophy community when the community is ready for it. It's not something that you can force. I don't believe in forcing things into the universe. I've learned that again through spirituality and through the magic mushroom experiences that I've had. And I believe this is something that can significantly improve. This is not something that I would say would help you cure muscular dystrophy, but it can help the parents and it can help the children when they get to a certain age where they can actually utilize this to overcome with a lot of these things and make it easier for them to actually go through the journey as parents and as, the children that are going through this. At some point, when my son gets older, I would introduce this to him, of course, with the consent of a mother and probably at the time that he's 18, so he can make that decision himself. I don't like to, force it to him. That's not our relationship. It's been always, go ahead, I'm here as a backbone. But yeah, I highly recommend it. This is something, it's a very life-changing event, if you ask me, if it's done right, if it's done with meditation prior to that. Don't just jump into it. It's not recommended. But yeah, I believe that this is something very beneficial for eventually for the community, for myself, and we'll see how things will play out.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool. I'm so glad that you shared that with me. I love that you feel comfortable being yourself and talking about an alternative path.
Yeah. And and that's the thing, because somehow those walls just crumble. I don't know how to explain it. Again, I don't want the false expression. It was a combination of multiple things that led me to become not a perfect person. Trust me, I'm not. I'll still shout at people sometimes and, do things that I regret later. But the awareness is there. I catch myself sometimes even in the act. Because some patterns go back to childhood. Some patterns are very strong in energy in your head. So it's not easy to get rid of them. But the comfort and all that comes from a combination of pain, self-realization, meditation, then magic mushroom.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Let's talk just quickly about what's going on with your nonprofit and the campaign and how you have a clear focus on that.
Sure. So as we talked yesterday, and I do apologize, when I was listening to my own, explanation, I saw that I was jumping from one thing to another so much, and I didn't even allow you to ask questions. But, that's something that also I would try to fix. As of right now, yesterday, for instance, we started a new campaign to fundraise for the mice model, which is for exons 5 to 26, meaning the deletion is from 6 to 25. That's the outcome of the study that we're aiming to do. But we want to look at the outcome of the study first, rather than doing the study first and then see how it turns out. Because we have the opportunity to do so. As of right now, we raised $225 yesterday, which is, it's good. I'm grateful for. I am a little concerned, to be honest with you. I know we don't have the bells and whistles of a big nonprofits, that's because we have been operating almost on zero from the very beginning. Like I said, my network, it's not as influential, I would say, or aligned with certain things that I believe or say. As you can see or hear, magic mushrooms and this and that, not everybody thinks you're sane. And we would continue pushing it. And I think that at this point, it's just persistency and exposure to the right crowd. I'm not blaming the outside world, but I feel like because of lack of resources that we had until this point and a lack of belief in muscular dystrophy research, it's a very, very difficult subject to convince someone that this money that you're donating, that you can donate to somebody that's hungry, somebody that has cancer right now, this is also as equally important, but you might not see the results right away. So I understand why people hesitate, but would that stop me? Would that stop us? Of course not. One person, and 2, 3, 4, that's all it takes, So you just gotta, what they say in Texas, you have to drill a lot of holes in order to hit oil. So yeah, we'll do it for as long as it takes. And like I said, we've been doing it on almost zero level, meaning that we have very little financial support. That's why our website is not, as fancy. But what we do possess is a wealth of scientists and connections and these wonderful things that everybody else with bells and whistles don't have. So that's the interesting part. But I think it's our job and my job to get out there more, now that the picture is more clear, and try to advocate as much as we can. And doing so by not losing our identity and value. That's, I think, the most important thing. Because if you think the cause is more important than your value and you start sacrificing it, you are sacrificing your cause entirely. And I feel like I'm sacrificing my son entirely. So if you're a corporation, I'm just making an example, and come and say, well, I need you to do this and this for me and say this and this, or don't say this and that. I say, thanks, but no thanks. I would say what I want to say. I would demonstrate that I'm conscious. I'm not a crazy person. So I would say the right things. I would speak up where I need to, where there is a need, and I would be quiet where there is a need. No issues there. Yeah, we want to keep our values. Our values are that consciousness. We're not going to, do anything that's political for benefit of business and this and that. I mean, we do value businesses. Don't get me wrong. We do give them exposure and credit and all that good stuff. But we just won't play games. I've seen that firsthand. I've seen that in the industry already. And we just decide not to participate. We're not here to change anything. We just want to do our thing and save our children and whoever. And of course, by saving our children, we're saving others, because the research that we do, everything that we do is going to affect a larger population. It's not just 1 or 2, But we will push for that. And we hope that, we can lead by example. That at the end, people can look and say, you know what, I can do it also like these guys. I don't have to lie. I don't have to do this. I don't have to play games. They will listen to me at some point. Just have persistence and have faith in yourself. And that's it.
I love that. That's great.
Thank you.
You've heard from my mom. Now, let's switch it over to Grandpa.
We all want to be able to go through life without tension and without despair or feeling bad. If you can be spiritual, to be less tense and feel better and about yourself, where you are not strained or stressed to the point where you're anxious and do things that can really disrupt your life, or say or do things. Sometimes, remember that old saying, think before you speak, that sometimes people that are going through or experiencing pain, and it doesn't have to always be physical pain, it can be even, inner mental pain, that we have to still go through life somehow in a calm way if we want to have any practical good with our lives. So I understand where he's coming from. He mentions that some people can interpret it that he's, cracking up or he's nuts. Other people would look at it as that He's trying to find peace, to do it in a manner that's not destructive. He's trying to fix his inner self where he is not over anxious and where he doesn't do something destructive. So it depends on your interpretation. I would like to think the message of what's happened to his son is that it's put him on a path where his understanding is that being in the rat race of just being tied to the dollar and cents isn't necessarily going to give him happiness and or his son happiness. And yet we all need money to survive. But the fact is that we can live, where our necessities don't have to be so glamorous, where people have to have the most expensive car on the street or the most expensive house on the street and have 29 rooms and 67 bathrooms, when usually you only have to go to the bathroom once or twice a day, and one bathroom only can do the trick. He's come to the realization that he wants to be able to help people, but help people and not necessarily be an ambassador where he makes a buck out of the deal. And he's seen even doctors that is what he really professed that he would have liked to have been. And he saw that it was, and some of these big drug companies where they're just in it to make a buck. They do want to help you, but they want to make sure that you come back for more so that they can charge you again and again and again. It sounds like it's just more business oriented at making money rather than necessarily curing or helping the patient or the business that you're in. And that's where, again, you're back to that dog-eat-dog world, that we're all here just to run around chasing our tail until we're unable to do it any longer. So when we look back at our lives, even my grandfather, that was 96 years old, just before he died, he says, I still haven't figured out what I'm doing here, and he'd been here 96 years and had a lot of wisdom. And yet still he thought life went very, very, it was a very short ride. You blink and your whole life can appear before you, and still searching right till the end. What was really all the meaning? What Mazi Part 2 is trying to tell you is that he's not there to try to just focus in on himself, and not even just to focus on his son. He really, truly wants to feel good, wants people to realize that feeling good is good for everybody, and that he's there to try to help with scientists that are working as part of his organization to try to get to the bottom of a very terrible disease and figuring out a way to not only cope with it, for people to cope with it, but hopefully find a way to cure it. And for people to be able to say, hey, let's put all our heads together and let's figure out constructively how important it is for us to have our lives go forward the best that we can. And not to just, the word I'm looking for is that we should be humble and compassionate towards people and make sure that we look at the big picture of trying to do something good for humanity and fixing ourselves, all of us, fixing ourselves and making ourselves as pure as possible to where we all feel good is maybe a higher priority than how much money is in your pocket.
Thanks for listening. Now I think I'm going to go call my dad.
I'll say goodbye and see you the next time.
Thanks for listening to the Better Call Daddy Show. Join us weekly for new episodes and more daddy wisdom.
Better Call Daddy is good advice always.
And love you, Grandpa, and love you, Mommy.
That's so cute.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. You can also find special episodes on my YouTube channel, and you can listen on Apple Podcasts,
On Good Pods.
Spotify, Amazon Music, Alexa, or your preferred podcatcher. That's a wrap for now.